In this section, we're talking about page sizes, margins, line spacing, and indentation. Let's get started. I'm going to open manuscript.doc. Where we've reached is we've spoken about formatting marks. We've removed typical errors like multiple white spaces between words. We've used special characters to remove spaces at the beginning of paragraphs. We've also spoken about the M dash, replacing all instances of double dashes or where we've used two dashes with the M dash. So let's start talking here about the page sizes that we could use for formatting our book. I'm going to just jump over here to the Layout tab, and under the Layout tab, there's Page Setup. In the past, I have used page sizes like 5 by 8 inches, 5.5 by 8.5 inches, and 6 by 9 inches. Having experimented with all of them, I am most satisfied that a 5-inch by 8-inch novel works wonderfully well. I love how it looks. So I'm going to jump over to my page setup. Inside of page setup, I'm going to jump over to the paper option. By default, this is set to 8.5 by 11 inches. That's where I've typed my stories. And I'm going to change that to a 5-inch by 8-inch option. A custom size. So the width is set to 5 inches and the height at 8 inches. As I said, you could make this choice based on your own requirements, but based on the typical sizes that I have seen and experimented with, I'm satisfied with 5 by 8. One of the things you want to ensure is that you've applied this to the whole document. Click OK. It's already starting to take shape, and I'm so excited right now because this sets the stage for what the rest of the book would look like. The second thing we're going to talk about is setting up our margins. And under page setup, if I go to margins, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these defaults as they are. I'll go through them and I'll discuss why I'm settling on these options. For the top margin, it's set to 0.75 inches, 3/4 of an inch. It's also 3/4 of an inch or 0.75 inches for the bottom margin. The left and right margins are set to 0.5 inches. This is fine. I want to ensure that it is set to the whole document. You're probably wondering why the top margin is set to 0.75 inches and the bottom margin is set to 0.75 inches. There's a very specific reason for that. When we eventually introduce the header to include the author name and the title of the chapter or the name of the book, and we modify the footer of each page to include the page number, we need some space. We need some breathing room. So that's why the top margin is set to 0.75 inches and the bottom margin is set to 0.75 inches or 3/4 of an inch. Before I click OK, I'm just going to jump over to the Layout tab. And under the Layout tab, you would notice that there's a margin set for the header and the footer. 0.5 inches, 0.5 inches. So when we introduce the header information and the footer information, it will occupy that space. As I mentioned in the previous section of this course, one of the things you want to do is verify your printer specifications. See what they say about the margins. I am going through what has worked for me based on the companies that I have worked with locally and online. So let's ensure that this is set to the whole document and let's click OK. So our document is taking shape. Let's talk about the line spacing. This is available under the Layout tab. To set the line space, I am first going to highlight my entire document. I could hit Ctrl A on my keyboard and then I'll click the Paragraph tab. I'm working with a line spacing of multiple at 1.1. Some of my books are set to multiple line spacing at 1.1. Typically, when you type a story, this might be set to double space during the writing and the editing process, but single space works wonderfully well for when you are formatting your book. The good news is that you have creative freedom to make this choice. This is just to highlight what I have used over the last couple of decades and what works well for me. I'll click OK. And already my document is taking shape. Currently, the paragraph indentation is set to 1/2 inch or 0.5 inches, and it's a little too big. Once upon a time, I formatted a book with 0.5 inches as the indentation, and it's way too much. So I'll highlight my entire document and just pull back up that paragraph option, and I'm going to set my indentation to be first line at 0.2 inches. 0.2 inches. You will see instances where this could be set to 0.25 inches. My advice to you is play around with it, print out the document, see how it looks. My last couple of projects, I have worked with 0.2 inches. Before closing this section, something to note is that the first line of each chapter or story is not indented. So what we want to do before we submit this book for publication is to remove the indentation on the first line. I am going to remove the indentation from the first line in each story. Something to pay special attention to is that as you format your book, chances are you will change the indentation at some point. So be mindful that before you submit your book for printing, you just want to verify that the first line in each chapter, you've removed the white space or the indentation. Our sample book has 3 short stories. So I'll just find the second short story. Which is called In the Desert, and remove the indentation from the first line of that story. This is a topic for another section. One of the things we've detected here is that when we resized the pages, it threw off the alignment of the story, moving from the 8.5 by 11 inches to 5 by 8 inches. We'll address that in a later section on page and section breaks. Similarly, for our third story called Mouse in the House, I'll remove the indentation. In a later section, we'll be talking about choosing a suitable font and using section breaks to format our new chapters. We did a lot in a short space of time. Congrats.